Soon all world fiat currencies will be replaced with only one. A one-world digital fiat currency owned and controlled by the IMF. After all, this is the reason of this pandemic crisis. Small black square. The main target of this is not people but is instead the US dollar. Small black square. While the dollar share of global reserves increased in the first quarter of 2021, it fell sharply in Q2, resuming a more than 2-year trend downward. Small black square. The share of euros making up global reserves rose slightly. In the share of yen dropped. Small black square. The second quarter saw the largest buildup of reserves in Chinese RMB and other currencies. Small black square. The increase in dollar reserves in Q1 was likely an anomaly triggered by increased valuation and safe haven buying. During the early stages of the pandemic panic, small black square, a Bank of America report concluded the de-dollarization theme appears intact according to its data. The share of US holdings has declined to 61.3%, slightly more than expected, based on FX bond and equity valuation changes. Small black square. Central bank reserves globally rose significantly as they aggressively intervened in foreign exchange. FX markets. Small black square. Total FX reserves rose to over $12 trillion. Small black square. According to analysis by Zero Hedge, most major countries experienced a rise in FX reserves through Q2, with the exception of Turkey. Small black square. That country continues to bleed reserves in order to stabilize its currency. Small black square. There has been a decoupling between the level of dollar reserves and the trade-weighted USD index, a measure of currency strength weighted by the country's amount of trade according to Zero Hedge. This divergence between the level of USD reserves and that of USDTWI is expected to persist as the world is decoupling from the USD as the notional reference peg. Small black square. According to the BOA report, no single currency stood out as having benefited from the process so far. Small black square. Instead, many central banks have turned to gold. Small black square. Central bank gold purchases have slowed somewhat this year after record buying in 2018 and 2019. But central bank gold buying is expected to rebound in 2021. According to analysts for both Citigroup and HSBC Securities. Small black square. Central bank demand came in at 650.3 tons last year. Small black square. That was the second highest level of annual purchases for 50 years, just slightly below the 2018 net purchases of 656.2 tons. Small black square. According to the WGC, 2018 marked the highest level of annual net central bank gold purchases since the suspension of dollar convertibility into gold in 1971 and the second highest annual total on record. Small black square. Some analysts believe both China and Russia will resume adding to their gold holdings next year. Small black square. Both countries have been aggressive in reducing their exposure to the dollar but recently put gold purchasing on hold earlier this year. Russia announced it would halt gold purchases effective April. Small black square. Meanwhile, the People's Bank of China has not reported any gold purchases in 10 months. Small black square. It's not uncommon for China to go silent and then suddenly announce a large increase in reserves. Small black square. The Chinese government has hinted that it might shed more U.S. treasuries from its reserve holdings. Small black square. It would come as no shock if the Chinese replaced US debt with gold. We've been watching this de-dollarization trend over the last several years and have written extensively about a push to minimize dollar exposure by countries like Russia and China and their desire to undermine the ability of the U.S. to weaponize the dollar as a foreign policy tool. Small black square. The dollar, slowly shrinking share of reserves doesn't yet threaten its status as the world's reserve currency, but it could be a canary in the coal mine. Small black square. It's definitely a trend to keep a close eye on. Small black square. And don't forget to also hit the notification bell. Small black square. Thank you. Small black square. Global tensions caused by economic sanctions and trade conflicts triggered by Washington have forced targeted countries to take a fresh look at alternative payment systems currently dominated by the U.S. dollar. Small black square. The globalist banks. Trace have weaponized the petro-dollar. To the point that many countries are trying to get away from the dollar. Small black square, it will take a while, perhaps years. But the dollar is dead. Small black square, why Europe, China and Russia are speeding up the process of de-dollarization can be understood only if the significance of the Iran deal is properly understood. Small black square, Iran is above all a case study in what Washington can do to you. If you expose yourself to the U.S. dollar for better or for worse, small black square, Tehran would not of course be considered particularly us-friendly. Small black square, but in order to participate in international trade, the Iranians had to rely on the US dollar and the SWIFT system which handles international payments. Small black square, SWIFT belongs to an international banking consortium and is even based in Belgium within the EU. Small black square, nevertheless, the USA was able to build up enough pressure to exclude Iran from SWIFT. Small black square, that's what the governor of the Turkish National Bank OeNB. You'll know what it means when he says the United States is massively using the dollar as a weapon. Small black square, and with every transaction in dollars, one is obliged to follow the American sanctions against Iran. For example, small black square, even if the USA is not directly involved in a trade, small black square, for example, when it comes to oil exports to a European country, small black square, Europe, China, Russia and many small countries set new initiatives every year to make themselves independent, small black square, and gold too plays a major role in this slow departure from the U.S. dollar. Small black square, but for the world financial system, none of their currencies offer a viable fully-fledged alternative to the U.S. dollar. Yet, small black square, China and Russia are buying European debt like crazy right now. Small black square, they are also banking on that Europe will soon pivot eastward for large trade volumes. Small black square, many in Europe also expect this simply because it makes economic sense. And even from a security point of view, small black square, the EU has no intention to start a war with Russia. Small black square, that is what the US and UK want. Small black square, the US and UK are now quickly becoming less relevant. Small black square, the list of countries trying to rid themselves of the dollar should include Japan too. Small black square, they are the second largest holder of US treasuries. Small black square, Japan has been quietly dumping US treasuries although they still use the US dollar in international trade. Small black square, what hasn't been said? Most other countries are simply not buying us treasuries either. Small black square, and the Saudis have threatened to dump their holdings to keep us in line with its 1973 agreement of supporting the Saudis militarily. Small black square, but the Saudis and the UAE are toying with the idea of using the Chinese yuan in trade. Small black square, at the last OPEC meeting 9 of the 14 member nations of OPEC were wanting to pull away from the dollar. Small black square, the Saudis were the major overriding holdout at that time. Small black square, in 2016 Saudi Arabia became China's top crude supplier. So it's very likely that China will get Saudi Arabia to trade oil and yuans in the near future, which would represent a serious blow to the petro-dollar. Small black square, the dollar was doomed when it was weaponized. Obama weaponized the dollar reserve with sanctions on Russia, small black square, that triggered the crash of the commodities markets as the dollar soared. Small black square, the dollar should not have been weaponized. Small black square, a dollar reserve must be a political, small black square, when Trump came along. He sanctioned over 40% of the world population guaranteeing the demise of the dollar reserve. Obama started it and Trump finished it. Small black square, the US dollar reserve was always supposed to be neutral. Small black square, gold for example is neutral. Small black square, if you have gold you can trade it. But with US sanctions, if you have dollars, you may not be able to trade with the US. And it's poodles because Obama or Trump don't like you. Small black square, Maynard Keynes was afraid this would happen one day. So he proposed the bankor as a composite currency for trade, which was a basket of currencies rather than just the dollar. Small black square, so now you have the weaponized dollar. Small black square, the weaponized dollar is a national security risk for every nation that trades. Small black square, thus de-dollarization is the way countries can free themselves from the tyranny of a weaponized dollar. Small black square, reserve currency has always gone to the largest trader, small black square, that is now China. Why? Because the largest trader can dictate the currency of the contract. Australia now trades coal and iron ore in yuan, small black square, but the yuan does not have the wide distribution that the dollar has, small black square. The dollar has been the primary reserve currency since 1945. Before that it was the pound, the French and the Spanish, small black square. China is in the final stages of making a digital yuan. Small black square, this has the capacity to convert any currency into instant digital yuan. Small black square, it is unnecessary to print currency actually as the dollar reserve has done over the last 74 years, small black square, they can do it instantly. Small black square, other forms of payment like Alipay or PayPal are also digital exchange platforms. Small black square, so converting in and out of dollars is quite easy. Small black square, the Bitcoin is not a currency, it is akin to traveler's checks. So its speculation makes it unsuitable as a currency. Small black square, people will lose their money on that speculation, small black square. What do dollars offer? Small black square, confidential cash transactions, small black square, money laundering and universal acceptance. Small black square, the cons: they may be manipulated, stolen and weaponized. Small black square, the dollar weaponization has become a national security risk for all nations of the world, so its demise is assured. Small black square, the seeds have been planted. Small black square, also note the U.S. reluctance to develop a crypto, small black square. Why? Small black square, they want to spy on all your transactions in the US and yet retain laundering capability outside the USA. Small black square, it is a weapon both against you in the USA and to the world outside the USA. Small black square, there is now competition for the dollar reserve, and each year the dollar weakens. Small black square, the euro could have replaced the dollar in about 1/3 of the world, but the EU is dependent on the US. With NATO. Small black square, this political entanglement prevents that. Then we have petro giant Russia very interested in dumping the dollar can exchange in oil and now the yuan. A digital yuan is a pegged digital currency, so its value will not fluctuate with currency movements. Small black square, it can't be laundered. Small black square, the next major crisis will kill the dollar. Small black square, there are two things that can throw the US dollar immediately in the tank. Number 1, small black square, the massive debt that the US has accumulated in the continued devaluation of the dollar by printing more money. Small black square, no one wants to be hanging on to a currency that keeps losing its value or accepting the U.S. to pay off its debt in funny money. Small black square. Number 2, if someone convinces OPEC not to back the dollar any longer and see what happens overnight. Small black square, it won't be any creeping loss of confidence, but rather everyone will be lining up rapidly to dump the dollar or anything else with a stamp of made in the USA on it. Small black square, the globalist banksters have weaponized the petro-dollar to the point that many countries are trying to get away from the dollar. Small black square, it will take a while, perhaps years, but the dollar is dead. Small black square, these banksters who are supposed to be so smart are actually stupid. Small black square, they did it to themselves.